Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about the digital ecosystem and what kind of guidebook you can create to start with this VKS product. So for those who don't know the digital ecosystem, let me actually open this up on my screen. There you go. So the digital ecosystem, it's a concept we introduced in VKS about a year ago when we had a customer that purchased VKS and they wanted their own suppliers to also use VKS in order to aggregate all the data that is used to produce the subcomponents and their final product all together. And they wanted to make sure their suppliers were essentially respecting the different criteria they had since they were making medical products. So it gave us the idea of this, which is essentially a structure that lets you force certain suppliers to access your VKS environment, or they could be using their own. That's another option as well. But in that scenario, they would be accessing your VKS environment, and you can control the access as well. So you can say for this supplier, they're only allowed to see those work instructions, or they're only allowed to look at the instructions located in that folder, for example. So then the supplier would be able to log in on your site, only access this material, and of course all they'd be able to do is just open the instruction. They wouldn't be necessarily able to go in and then make some modifications in your guidebooks or other things like this. All they can do is just open the instruction as a user with a reader role would have. So letting your suppliers access VKS has certain advantages. Of course, it means you can force them to follow a certain step-by-step process. So right now, when you want to have a supplier make some parts for you, what you would do is give him some engineering plans and certain quality criteria, but they have to deal with the how do we manufacture this, and what kind of things and subtleties do we have to inspect to make sure we respect the quality that the client's looking for. But if you build your VKS instruction already step by step, you can give that to your supplier, and for them all they have to do is just follow the process, answer the questions in the forms, and you, the client, would receive reports of all the data that is being captured. You would get all the quality inspections and the results and the serial numbers that are collected and all this, and you would also get updates essentially on the progress of the manufacturing of those certain parts. So you would know when they're done with certain jobs, how many quantities they're producing, and things like that. So there's lots of advantages in doing so, and also it gives you a bit more flexibility as well. Let's say you have to switch from one supplier to another. We've seen during COVID that the supply chain was kind of broken a bit, and we had to source things internally in our own countries. Well, now it's very easy to switch quickly to another supplier because the process is already made. Again, you just give it to them and they just follow the steps pretty much. So it's useful to share instructions. It's also useful to include your suppliers, or vice versa. Your suppliers could be designing instructions. You can still give them those access, and they can include you in the approval process, so you can review the process that the supplier designed in VKS in their instruction, so you can then approve this process and make sure everybody's fine with the guidebook that were built. And then it also helps with communications, since as you know in VKS you can use certain forms to report a non-conformance or to send some kind of message or notification or on something, and you would be able to receive those forms via email instantly, so you would be aware of every single issues that are happening during the manufacturing process, so you can react to it quickly instead of waiting a day or a couple of days before you get just like a personal email from the person notifying you of a certain issue. Now you know it right now, so you can react to it right there. It also, as I said, gives you live traceability because you get the device history record live and you're tracking their work orders live as well. So this is the concept of the ecosystem. Now, when you start using it, you might have lots of different ideas of where you can implement this, but the easiest thing you could do, and I'm going to show you an example that we use at our sister company. So we also use this concept. Our sister company called CMP. They're a contract manufacturer, so they have lots of other suppliers providing them with parts. And what they're asking from those parts before they're being shipped is certain documentation and certain quality inspections that are being done, because sometimes you'll be receiving some parts, you ask for a certain quality, but it's you when you receive the part, you do the inspection yourself and you realize maybe we were not aligned on the certain criterias of quality. But if you create the instruction for them of exactly what to inspect and using the forms and all, you can make sure that they run through this guidebook and do the exact same inspection as you would do. So then when you receive the part, you make sure that everything is fine, and you don't have to ask for another shipment and ask them to correct some things. So it can be useful for that, but of course it requires you to design lots of specific instructions for every single different products that you need them to inspect. So what you can do instead is just start with something a bit more generic. So we have this document that my colleague made, Eugene. It's called Supplier Required Documents, Family of Parts. So this is a guidebook that the supplier needs to fill in when they're about to ship a shipment, and it contains forms where they have to upload certain documentation, and I believe there are some fields to maybe take pictures of the product when it's sent, and just some check boxes and things like that. So super simple. It only has one step, so it's only really used for forms, but eventually the more you work on those, you're going to start making specific guidebooks with actual pictures of what, again, you need to inspect and actual dimensions you need to take and things like that. But until you get to that point, you can use those generic instruction. And I mean, creating this, it's a 15-minute process, and it can be used for every single shipment that you will receive. So first thing, select the part number that you will be inspecting. So here I have a drop-down list, essentially, where you can choose the part family. And depending on the part family, you're going to get a different form after. So there's a rule hidden in this form where, depending, again, on what I select, I'm going to have a different form with a bit of specific questions. So again, it's not entirely generic. You can make it a bit more specific and spend a bit more time to make it fit, really, but still. So here I'm going to select part family 456, and I have this form that opens, again, asking me, the supplier, to fill that information. So work order number or batch number, or whatever you want to call that, I can fill that in, and then it's asking me to upload some certificates. So this field right here is used usually to take pictures, of non-conformances or take pictures of finished products. But it doesn't only let you take pictures, it also lets you upload files. So this is a great way for you, the supplier, to open the types of certificates that the client might be looking for. So MIL certificate, reach, certificate of compliance, enter the batch number for the work order. So here we have the work order, now we have the batch. You can put that in. Now I'm not going to try to upload any of those files, they're not located on my computer, but essentially you click on the button, it opens up your file explorer to select something. Simple pass-fail question. Confirm there are no visual defects found. Pass. Confirm the parts fits the go, no-go JIT you've been provided. So again, eventually we get those to be more specific. If required, upload additional documents. Here you can add some comments. You hit save on this, which I cannot do, again, because I haven't selected any files there. But when you hit save, what I can do is automatically maybe send this form via email to a certain group of people that would be notified instantly. They would see this, and this would be the go, essentially receiving that. They would have the go to then ship the parts. So they would inspect that document, make sure everything uploaded there is fine, and then you can continue, essentially. So I cannot actually save it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to still upload those files. So let's go and see what we have here. So I'm just going to upload some PDF. Okay, let's just upload this here. Let's just upload like a picture here, and then I'm just going to pick another PDF. Hit save. And I'm going to let that upload a bit. The form has been saved. If you close this message, the guidebook will close. So I can hit OK, the guidebook is closed, and that's done. Somebody's being notified again. Again, look at this and maybe send me an email, send me a notification. There's even a way to add a mechanic in the guidebook where the guidebook stays open and the client can go in the guidebook, look at the form. There could be a second form with a signature field on here that you can then sign to officially close the order. You would be notified of that, so you know when to ship the parts. Again, to reduce as much as possible back and forth manual emails. In that case, everything's pretty much automatic. All right, so I'll just reopen the guidebook to show you the other options that we had. So let's view it again, and I'm just going to go in non-production mode now because I want to be able to cancel the forms to show all of them. So I'm going to pick test right here, and all right, so select the part number we will be inspecting. So we chose 456, and I'm just going to pick 1, 2, 3 just to show you that it's a bit different. So the first part is the same, but here we made it a bit more specific. So now we're asking for dimension values. So inspection is required 1 every 20 units. So here you can enter the values. I believe there's a rule in there that notifies you if it's out of range. Select the color for this batch of parts. Again, other specific little things. So of course, what you can do is one guidebook in different forms, or 3 different guidebooks. That's another option as well. Because if you're using different guidebooks, it's also easier to use specific picture steps as well. Confirm there are no visual defects, pass fail if required, upload additional documents. So that's the same thing. And if we had picked 7, 8, 9, that's what we have. Again, asking for some dimensions. This one's not asking for any documents to upload. And we have a little checklist here. Please confirm all the points by checking all of the items, parts of free visual defects, securely placed on the pallet, inspected parts were tagged. So that's what we have, and what we also have is another manually open form, which at any point in time you can open. And those kinds of forms you can build whichever you want. This one's just an example, but let's assume we need to deviate from what has been expected us to build as the supplier. So maybe we had to source a different batch of material. So maybe we need the approval for that. So you can create a form that you open if needed. Add the reason for the deviation, maybe add a bit of comments here, attach a document if you need to, hit save. This notifies the client, they're aware of it, and they're aware that they need to give their approval to let you continue. So just a certain way to do an extra little communication instead of sending an email separately. This can all be combined together in the same guidebook, so it's more clear that this deviation is for this work order, since you already type the work order at the beginning. Again, everything's aggregated together in the same report. So that's it for this guidebook of the week and the VKS ecosystem. Again, that was just an example of where to start with. You can do that in 15-20 minutes. We can show you how to build these guidebooks. We can show you more information on the VKS ecosystem. Of course, simply just schedule a demo with us, or contact your customer support representative. It will be a pleasure to show you how this all works.